Before we begin the episode, I would like to thank our sponsor, Chin Up Goggles, the latest vision restriction sport training aid. The goggles eliminate your downward vision, encouraging you to constantly look outward, making it the ideal training accessory for you and your teammates. You can find them on social media at Chin Up Goggles or their website chinupgoggles.com, which will be linked in the description box below. Now, let's get into the episode. Welcome back to the Sideline Live podcast. You can follow us over on Twitter and Instagram at the Sideline Live. We'd love to hear from you. On episode 31, I am delighted to be joined by former Neptune and Birmingham Southern College guard Conor O'Sullivan. In this episode, Conor outlines his career, his path to the States, being dropped from an Irish development panel, adapting to college basketball, burnout, and much more. I really hope you enjoyed the episode. Hi Conor, thanks a million for coming on the podcast.
Not a bother, Orla. Thanks for having me.
So before we get into everything, would you mind doing a little bit of an intro for the listeners who might not know who you
are? So I'm Conor O'Sullivan. I'm from Cork and I just graduated from Birmingham Southern College in Alabama this spring.
Brilliant. So we're going to get into all that, but I suppose back to your roots, back to Cork. I spoke to your brother Dara recently on a podcast. I'll link that in the description below. Obviously your dad was a really big name in Irish basketball. Can you take us through a little bit of your family influence?
So all my family really plays sports. So I have a bunch of uncles that played hurling football for Cork on my dad's side, and then my granddad on my mom's side played for Cork as well. But my dad was the only person to play basketball in his family, so we just we played all the sports when we were younger, and then as we got older, we had to choose, and we just followed in his footsteps. And then Dara didn't start until later. I started when I was like 5 or 6, and Dara didn't start till he was like 11.
Okay.
So he was a bit of a late bloomer, but it was always one sport that we were going to stick to, and that was basketball.
Even from a young age, you were like, "This is what I want to do."
Yeah, even though I wasn't the best at the very young age, but I got better and better as I got older.
Did you try football and hurling?
Yeah, I was good at football. I was awful at hurling.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was terrible at it.
Yeah, but you did a takeover recently on the page. Now, recently it was I think it was last October, and you had Hurley and Slither over with you in America. Do you go for a bit of a puck about by yourself or with the lads?
So all the lads, I've tried to tell them and I showed them videos of it and stuff, but and then they look up videos on YouTube themselves and they're fascinated by it. Like it's just they compare it to like the Game of Thrones or something, but they all want to try it. So of course when I'm playing with them I'm unbelievable, like, but at home I'm awful.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be too difficult to be really good in Alabama at hurling, I don't think.
Yeah, I know.
And then growing up then you kind of said you took to basketball at a young age, kind of knew what you wanted to do. Did you ever feel pressure maybe at a younger age, being Tom O'Sullivan's son, to perform, or was that something that you didn't really let bother you?
Nah, I kind of took it in stride, really. Everywhere I went, it was like, oh, and Dara kind of got it more than me because he looked like him.
Okay.
But Dara looks very like my dad and when my dad was younger. But everywhere I went, there was like, yeah, or Tom Sullivan's son. I'm like, yeah, that's us there. I mean, and we wore the number 11. The two of us wear number 11 now, like, proud. And we just wear it because of him.
Yeah.
But yeah, everywhere we went, I never really felt pressure. I was always like, and it wasn't really any comparisons, but people would be like, oh, your dad used to shoot the shit out of it, or your dad did this, your dad did that. I'm like, all right, like, whatever.
Yeah, I'm Conor, so I'm here to do. Yeah, exactly. And talk us through that underage success with Neptune. You had some brilliant years there. How did that whole group start off? Kind of talk us through the really early days there.
Oh, well, we started off, I just saw pictures the other day of when we were like, I'd say it was about 8 and 9, and you have the core fellas there. It's myself, Dara, Sean, Adam Drummond, Scott and James, and then you have the people that are coming in kind of later would be like the Heafies, David Murray, and then Liam Chandler as well. So it kind of started off with the core group that I said there a second ago, we were there from the very start. We went to the nursery together, and then I was kind of a bit older than them, and then Sean and Adam were in between, and then you were Dara, Scott, and James that were just a bit younger, but they'd always play up.
Mm-hmm.
So we'd always I'd always have 1 year with each of them, and as we got older, we just started. We were just playing together every day down in Neptune, and we just when we got to like under 18, we were like, all right, this is it now. Like we're going to be playing for a cup here. We're just going to show everybody what we're capable of.
Mm-hmm. And what was that like then? I'm interested to hear you were down every day. Was that organised training? Was that just you just having a bit of a laugh and just enjoying each
Uh,
other's company?
so we used to go down in the mornings, and in fairness, now like to Paul Kelleher, to whoever had a key, Michael Leahy and Noel Allen used to come down too. Whenever we used to text them, they used to always come up and open Neptune for us.
Mm-hmm.
So it was they were very good to us in that sense. To wherever we wanted to go in, we'd be able to get in, and then we'd go in and we'd do drills, and then at the end is when it got kind of competitive. Is when we used to start playing against each other, whether it was
Mm-hmm.
2v2 or 3v3. That's when it started getting like chippy and people started getting in competitive.
Yeah. And when did you realise? Did it take till under 18 when you realised, geez, we're one of the best teams in the country, or were you kind of knew you were good all along?
Because it's not until then really until like you start playing teams that are like around the country. I mean, you have under 14 and under 16 All Irelands, but
Mm-hmm.
everybody's focused on the cup, like
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
not
that's where
not
you
many
want to
people.
win.
Yeah, not many people can tell you like who won under 16 All Irelands last year. I mean, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, it's important. Don't get me wrong, but it's when you get to the under 18 level, it's like it's the national cup. Like this is it.
Yeah, exactly. You spoke about it as well in the takeover. You started going to high school camps in the States. When was that? And was that the kind of spark where you were thinking, oh, I'd like to go to the States, or was that something from a younger age you always kind of had in your head?
Uh, it's always something that I've had in my head when I was younger. I've always wanted to go to the States. But when I started going to these camps, it was actually Terry Kennedy in Mayo in Ballina took me for the first time, and we went to Hoop Group in Pennsylvania. And I went for 2 weeks with him. He was coaching and I was playing, and I won the MVP of that camp. And I was like, all right, well, like, I mean, I can compete over here. I mean, they're
Mm-hmm.
not much. I thought that they were going to be leaps and bounds ahead of me, but I mean, it turns out that I was able to compete and I was able to do well over there in that camp, and that kind of lit the fire under me then.
And then, what age were you at that stage?
That was before any of the cups.
Okay. And then you went back for a couple of times, was it?
I went back 2 years later, I think. Yeah, it was 2 years later, but I coached that year.
Okay.
I coached in it, and then Dara played in it.
Okay. And how did you find? Like, speak a little bit about the level and kind of what like you expected it to be a bit better than it was, or was that just because when you're younger you hear all these things about the States and you kind of like hype it up in your head, or was it just you were just quite good compared to them?
It's not even like hyping up in your head, but like people, like social media is huge now. Like you're seeing these
Mm.
fellas that are like 13, 14, jumping from the free throw line, women and it, and like
Yeah.
you're looking over, and then you go over, and then you see like it's not everybody is doing that over in America. Like
Yeah.
you have kids that like aren't as good as what you see on social media, or that can't jump as high or can't run as fast. But I mean, you still have some good players, but then like you forget that we're training that much as well. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
At home, and the only difference was when we went to those camps was like that they went up and down much faster.
Okay.
So the game is just quicker, and you have to adjust to that. But I mean, we like to play that way with our Neptune team as well, so we were kind of used to that.
Hmm. You spoke about it as well in the takeover, picking the brain of older players. Was that something you consciously did at a young age, or was that just encouraged with the culture in Neptune?
Uh, it was big culture in Neptune. I mean, because you always have the guys like Joe Noonan and Gary Walsh, and then closer to my age would be like Roy. But I used to always look up to Roy. I used to always look up to Gary, and then Jer. Jar as well, because I mean he was a guard when he was younger, but as he got older, he moved into the post. But they used to always like, and it's something that they used to do very well. Is like they used to always be very inclusive for, especially to like our team, because they saw that we were pretty good, and they were like, all right, they can do something, and we're gonna do what we can to help them and help them be good and help them win.
Kind of like they recognised the next generation were coming through, and they had
Yeah,
to not pass the torch, but help guide you along a little bit.
yeah, that is, and they did a great job of it too.
And what age then did you go up to the National League team or the Division 1 team? They would have been
I
at the
believe it
time.
was 17, 17, 18 around there.
And how did you find that jump to Division 1?
I didn't play much at all in
Okay.
my Division 1, but I was still under 20, so I played under 20, and then I barely played National League, but training with them every day was very good. Like, I mean, you're not going to get that competition from all the kids that are under 20 at the time, but you're gonna be competing for minutes and competing for playing time and the National League team every training session.
What were some of the biggest lessons maybe you learned with training with that team?
Biggest lessons. I don't know. Like, it's not really like a lesson, but I used to learn like just tricks and just small little stuff that like Gary and Roy would do, because neither of them were the fastest. Like, but they used to always be able to get to the rim anytime they wanted. They used to always like, it's just the way they used to see the floor and stuff too. So I used to pick up on that stuff, and I can't really recall like a bit like a big lesson, you know. But it's just like small things every week that you pick
Yeah.
up on.
Yeah, the small, nearly intangibles that coaches might not even know, because you kind of have to be on the floor to kind of,
Yeah, to
pick up
see
those little
that.
things.
Yeah.
And that success then continued. So it was, I think it was the same year. I can't remember the exact year, but it was under 18, under 20, and the men's Division 1 National Cup. The
Yeah, I
Neptune
think
did
that
the
was
triple.
20. I think it was 2018. Was it 2018, 2019? I think, or it was 2017, 2018. I'm not sure before that.
It was I'm trying to remember. I think it was it 2017, 2018?
I think it would be. Yeah,
Yeah. What was that like with the co-club doing the triple? Like, I'd say it was some buzz in Cork.
that was insane. That when we got back and we had the Garda escort coming in from Cork, so we flew straight into Quinlan's anyway. After that, it was that whole week was a fun celebration for all of Neptune. It was very good.
Yeah. What was it like being able to share that with your family as well?
It was good. I mean, I count all the lads that I grew up with like as my family. Like, I still talk to them all the time, and to do it with them fellas like that I grew up with when I was 7 or 8, as I said, like that's something special, and that's something that you never forget.
And then was that the time around your leaving cert then, or how did that fit in?
That year was my leaving cert, and then the year after I did 1 year on CIT.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the year we won the triple was the year of my leaving cert.
Okay, yeah. And how did that, at the time when you did the triple year junior leaving cert, were you looking at the States? Was that an option, or were you just kind of focused on the CAO?
Nah, it wasn't an option at all. Actually, I obviously I wanted to do it when I was younger, but then I was like, all right, well, nothing has come of it. I'll go to CIT. I'll get my degree here, and then I'll play at Neptune. I'll be grand. And then I went to CIT, and for a year, and Ian Tom came as the Sports Changes Life scholar for CIT, and he played at Neptune, and we got really close. Still very good friends. I was actually just down at his house in Gulf Shores a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, cool.
And his mom and dad came, and they became really good friends with my mom and dad. But his dad was the assistant coach at BSC at the time.
Okay.
So they came, saw a couple of games, saw a couple of training sessions, and he was basically like, yeah, here, I'm going to recommend you to the head coach. And he was like, he had a big enough pull in there to where the head coach would trust him enough to, if he saw a player that he'd be like, all right, he can do something. But I didn't even visit, and I just got on a plane the next September with my dad, and went straight over there.
Wow. What was that like then, having not been there and having to move over? I know your dad went with you, but you would have been moving there by yourself pretty much.
Yeah, basically. Uh, it was nerve-wracking. I was nervous. Uh, my mom didn't want me to go.
Okay.
She was like, "The grass isn't always green on the other side," and I was like, "Just let me try it. Let me see how it goes."
Hmm.
And I ended up absolutely loving it. But yeah, it was a lot of anxiety and I was very nervous before I left.
Yeah, understandable. You'd been to the States, but you hadn't been to probably Alabama, had you?
No, I was only ever up north. I'd never
Yeah.
been down south before.
Yeah, that's understandable then, being nervous. And how did that work with college? So did you just transfer your modules or credits from CIT to BSc,
Yeah,
or how did that? Oh, that was grand. So
yeah, all my credits transferred. Thankfully, because that would have been
okay,
awful. I wouldn't have graduated this year anyway if they didn't transfer.
yeah. So you came in your first year in America. You were classed as a sophomore, I'm
I was a
taking.
sophomore. Yeah,
So you lost that first year of eligibility.
I still had it if I
Oh, you
wanted
still
to
had
use
it.
it
Okay,
because I didn't play. It doesn't count as like it's not NCAA if I'm playing with CIT in basketball.
okay,
So
okay.
I still had it.
Okay, I know what you mean. And when you moved over, then your dad was with you for a bit. I'm sure he came back pretty quick. But what was that like then? Get involved with the team. What did the lads think? First of all, you're probably one of the only Irish people they knew. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, I was definitely the only Irish person they ever met,
Okay.
and they were like they were just they were astonished by my accent. First of all, they were taken away by it, and
It's still very strong now. I'm pretty impressed for someone who hasn't
yeah,
been home in like 2 years.
I will never lose it. I promise. I have to slow down sometimes,
Yeah.
and that's when I figured I was just sick of everybody like saying what like what's sick? Excuse me? And I was like, all right. So I just had to I had to slow down and make sure I pronounce my words properly.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And but we all hit it off straight away. I mean, they're great fellas, all of them.
Brilliant.
And I mean, I have friends for life in them now as well. You know,
Brilliant. And what was it like getting involved in the schedule and sort of pre-season training? What was that like?
that was an adjustment, all right.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you know yourself at home, like you're there 2 times a week, an hour and a half with the team. That's it.
Mm.
Maybe 3 times a week. We went 3 times a week sometimes with Neptune,
Hmm.
and then you have to get in by yourself if you want any extra work, and you have to get your own gym membership, and you have to lift by yourself. But when I first got here, our schedule was we wake up 6 o'clock. You have to be in the gym at 6 o'clock, and we would lift we'd lift weights, and they'd have like a whole program for us, and then we go upstairs to the practice gym, and we would have sprints. We'd have to do sprints, and we'd have class then after that, and we'd come back for a scrimmage later on in the day.
Jesus, I say you're wrecked.
Yeah, the first couple of weeks I was exhausted, so
Yeah.
I didn't know what hit me, and then we come into actual training, and which was starting like October, and those things are like 3.5, 2.5, 3 hours, 3.5 hours long.
The practices themselves.
Yeah, yeah, themselves.
And what are you doing during those 3 hours? Can you break that down a little bit for us, for the listeners?
It's a lot of so we'll split up. You split up. Sometimes we'll do a lot of team stuff at the start. Uh, just like what the way we want to move up the floor as a team. We
Mm.
call it like a split eight. Everybody get to their spots. Everybody gets a shot. Blah blah blah. And then we'll split up into like guards and forwards. So you'll have them on the other end. It varies the time that you're in an hour. So it could be like 20 to 25 minutes, and then you go offense, defense split,
Hmm.
and obviously both sides will have to do an offense and a defense, and then we'll just start getting into live play then after that, and we're just
Okay.
playing against each other. And the coaches will like stop it if they see anything, or just to correct, you know.
And how did you find then transitioning from playing men's national league Division 1 CIT and then to NCAA Division 3?
Uh, it's a lot of information over here. So we don't scout at all at home.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm getting stuff thrown at me. So we have like, I'd say nearly 80 plays
Wow.
in our playbook. But it's a lot of like wrinkles off like the main stuff. So you have the main stuff and then you have like wrinkles off each one. And I never had that before when I first got here.
Yeah.
And I felt like I was a pretty intelligent fella and when it comes to basketball. And I was like, all right, I can pick up on this. And I wasn't getting it at all.
Okay.
And I was getting frustrated at myself. And then I was like given a leaflet or a pamphlet or whatever you call it. And it's about this thick. And it's of the other team.
Oh, Jesus.
The other team scout everything that they do. And they're like, yeah, you have to know this by the end of the week or by whenever the game is, Friday or something. And they give it to us on Wednesday. And I'm like, all right. So I'm there studying that in my room. And then I have to keep up with my schoolwork. So it was a lot.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
But I loved it. I loved every minute of it. And obviously, as I got older, my junior, senior year, I was able to like pick up on stuff faster. And I was on the ball with that type of stuff then, you know.
Yeah. In the first year then, particularly when maybe it didn't sound like you were struggling too much, but you were kind of just getting frustrated with yourself. Did you feel homesick?
Yeah, I was my first year I was very homesick.
Okay.
But I was lucky I had Ian's mum and dad. I had Coach Tom and Mary Ellen. So they lived on campus as well. They had a house on campus around the corner. So anytime I wanted to go over there, they invited me in and I was able to go over there and just get away for a while.
Okay.
So that helped an awful lot. If I didn't have them my first year, I don't know if I would have made it at all, I'll be honest.
Okay. Really? Was that ever a thought that maybe, I don't know if I'll come back?
No, after I had my first year done, I was like, all right, this is it. Like and when I got home, I was like just counting down the days to when I was going back.
Wow.
In the summer.
Yeah.
And I was excited to go back for my junior year then, but I never thought that when I go home I'm not coming back. That never really crossed my mind.
Yeah. And how did you find then, after learning all your plays, after scouting the other team, how did you find getting in the games? What was your role really in the first year?
My first year, so we had a point guard that was a senior, and he was all conference that year as well. So I was backing him up. And I was playing about 13 minutes a game, and basically I was just learning. And it was my first year, and to be honest, looking at that, I wish I would come here my freshman year because I would have had a bigger role in my sophomore and junior year then.
Yeah.
Or my sophomore year, I'm sorry. But I was just learning my sophomore year. I was playing 12 minutes a game. I was learning from Zach, and I learned a lot from him. And then when I got to my junior year, I was playing 25 minutes a game because he had graduated.
Yeah. And how did you find then, like coming back after that first year, what do you think you most improved on? Was it that tactical side of the game where you're learning plays, or was it maybe just having been in the gym, what sounds like every day of the week?
Every day of the week, yeah. I came back and I was like, all right, it was much easier when I came back here. And we were playing pickup and I was just trying to I would always try and guard the best players, but then I'd like, obviously you had players like the Hannigans and Dara had been here all summer too. So our battles like continued when I came back that summer. Or we used to fight all the time. We used to have, down in Neptune, we used to get really chippy. I'm not going to lie. We used to get very, very close to throwing hands a lot of the time. I'm not going to lie.
Okay, right.
But then once the game is over, you're like, yeah, that was fun, wasn't it? And they're all like, yeah, I mean, that was unreal.
Yeah, that's class. And how often would you be in Neptune doing pickup then in the summer?
We used to go every Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then we used to try to get in there in the mornings as well. So we couldn't go any Tuesday because they have bingo in there every night.
Okay. And was there an off-season plan that BSC gave you for that summer of your sophomore year, or was that just kind of, they know you'll keep fit and get shots up?
So we have a strength and conditioning coach for every team
Mm.
on campus, and we had an app. It was called Team Builder, and he would put workouts in there every week or every day.
Okay.
There's a gym up the road from my house, so I would go there after the morning workout from Neptune and just try and get that in as quick as get that out the way. But they would send us the plan, and the coaches our coaches kept up with it. But I mean, if you came back out of shape, I mean, you weren't going to play.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
it was on you, like.
Yeah. And what are those workouts like in the gym? Is it full body, upper body, lower body? Is it just a bit of everything, really?
Full body, everything is a total body workout.
Mm-hmm.
So you're hitting everything every day. Well, not everything every day, but you're hitting your lower and upper body every day.
Oh,
So you're
wow.
not doing like a push-pull legs, or you're not doing anything like that. It's kind of you're just trying to kind of maintain what you have, and it's for performance rather than trying to look good,
Yeah. And would you have done much of that in Ireland before going to the States? Or
I
was it?
tried, but I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah. Okay. There was nothing
So
really here.
yeah, I never had a coach that would correct me when I'm wrong, or tell me a better way to do something, or
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then, so you came home for that summer, you were in Neptune 3 or 4 times a week in the gym. You went back for your second year. What was that like then, adapting to the second year? You've, as you said, new role, 25 minutes a game because the point guard had graduated. What was that second year like?
The second year was fun. We weren't as good. We didn't have we had the players,
Mm-hmm.
but we could never get it to click, which was frustrating. But again, I kept improving as a player myself individually, but it was just unfortunate that we never succeeded the way we were supposed to succeed with that team.
Mm-hmm. What was the potential of that team, maybe?
Looking back at the team now, we had every piece that we needed,
Okay.
but we just couldn't get it together for some reason. And still we still talk about it, and I just we don't know where it went wrong, but we never gelled properly. We were all really good friends, but it never came together on the court for us for some reason that year. But
Okay.
then this year, we all came back, and we had a much better year this year, thankfully.
Yeah. And with that second year, obviously COVID hit in March. Take us through what happened, because yourself and Dara had an interesting, nearly like probably a bit scary at one stage because you weren't able to get home.
No, so I'll be honest. When it all happened, there's no way this is happening now. I was like, there's no way. I was like,
Yeah.
I was in disbelief, but we get it. We're all out. We're all having this kind of the last couple of weekends on campus, and we get an email from our president, and he says, "All right, you have to be gone by tomorrow morning. Everything has to be packed up or out of your room by tomorrow morning." And the place is it's like mayhem. It's
Really.
ridiculous. Everybody is trying to use the same stuff. Everybody's trying to get out of campus at the same time. So I call my dad, and I'm like, they're kicking us out of campus. Like I was like, what am I supposed to do? And I was talking with my friend Evan. He's my roommate, one of my best friends. He was like, all right, just come back to my house. His mom and dad invited me back, and meanwhile, Dara's sitting the SAT up in Boston,
Yeah.
and I'm like, my dad's like, all right, what are we gonna do with Dara now? And I say it to Mr. and Mrs. Sigler, and they're like, all right, he's coming too.
Wow.
Kindness of their heart, like they took the two of us in. They met Dara one time, and they met me a few times because I'd been down there for like Thanksgiving and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and took us in for 3 months.
Wow.
So we collected Dara from the airport, and we just stayed there for 3 months, and we worked out in Evan's gym, and we luckily we had a a basketball court that we could go to as well. So we
Mm.
never really stopped working out, which was good.
Yeah, that kind of seems to be a consistent theme from listening back on underage in the States, and then with COVID, the pair of yous just seem to just work out all the time. You don't seem to stop.
Yeah.
Is that just something that was ingrained in you, or is that just you just have this, you just want to succeed?
I mean, I feel like if I'm not doing stuff, I just get bored. Like I don't know, I can't just sit around the house or sit around watching TV all day. Like I'll go get my stuff done, and then I'll come back and do that, and I can relax then after I know that I have my stuff done.
Mm.
And in fairness, that's the way my mom and dad kind of raised the two of us as well. Like, I mean, just even if you don't wake up early, or just if you wake up at like 10 or 11, just go ahead, get it out of the way first, and then you can just carry on about the rest of your day after that.
Yeah. Did you ever feel maybe a bit of burnout, or was that
Yeah,
ever? Yeah. At what stage was that?
yeah. I got burnt out. Not anytime recently, but it was my first year here. I got burnt out after the season.
Mm-hmm.
After the season, I took like 2 weeks off. I didn't even go near anything.
Okay.
I still kind of lifted a small bit, but not nearly as much as what I was. I didn't go into basketball. I didn't play basketball at all for like 2 weeks. I was just dead
Yeah. Yeah.
because it was just such a big change from what I was used to.
And is that something, because you've gone through burnout before, are you more conscious of that now, and you nearly recognize if you're getting near that stage, or have you experienced that?
I haven't experienced a total burnout like I did that year again
Mm-hmm.
because
Okay.
I kind of catch myself in the act. Like I'm like, all right, you're going to get burnt out here, so let's just take it easy for a day or two, so we don't have to take it easy for 2 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah,
You
exactly. So
know?
you just try to take the foot off the gas, but not fully, obviously.
Yeah,
Yeah. So you stayed there for 3 months, which is incredible hospitality. Like,
it was
that's just
unbelievable.
amazing. Yeah. And what was that like? I'm sure you had a bit of crack anyway with with yourself and your brother and the Siglers.
Yeah, they're a great family. They really are. They're very good to us. But yeah, we were there for 3 months. Me and Dara were in single beds right next to each other. It was like we were back in Glenbeigh again, back down in Kerry when we
Yeah.
had that mobile home. But it was fun. We had great crack with them. They were brilliant. And after
Yeah.
that, we came up here, back up to Birmingham for a while, for the rest of the summer actually, where uh, my coach put us up
Wow.
for the rest of the summer, and we had a gym right across the road. It was everything. Everything seems to fall in place around here for some reason. I don't know why. It just fell in place right one after another, like
Yeah.
a domino effect.
And at that stage during the summer of 2020, were you ever looking at flights to come home? Was that a thought, or was it, oh, we'll just stay here?
It was a thought a couple of times where we had to talk with my parents, and I had to talk with my coach. And in fairness to him, he said, as hard as it was for him to say, he was like, "I'd prefer if you didn't,"
Mm-hmm.
and which is weird, like like that can't be easy for a coach to say, like, "Oh, I prefer if you don't go home to see our family."
Yeah.
But I was like, I'm looking back at now, I was like, it was out of the goodness of his own heart. He was looking out for me, like he knew that I wasn't going to be able to do the same stuff here as what I was at home.
Mm-hmm.
So he put us up, and he knew that if I went home, I wouldn't be able to get back anytime soon, and I was going to miss my last year.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, because I was chatting to someone recently. I think it was Eve Nealon, and she was saying at one stage there was an issue with visas or something for college students. Was it?
I have no idea. I couldn't speak on that. No, I don't have enough information on it. But they just weren't letting people in general. Like,
Okay. Okay.
so unless you had an American passport. So
Okay.
even if I did go to school here, they wouldn't have cared. Like I wouldn't have been left back in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I would have missed my senior year, and I don't know what I would have done at home. I probably would have had to find a job somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
But it was smart out of Coach Graves to recommend that.
Coming into that final year, then obviously you worked out loads in the summer. How did you feel your game jumped from maybe your second year? Did you see much of an improvement?
Yeah, I was. This was the year then that I kind of fell into my like leadership role.
Mm-hmm.
I was one of the older people on the team. People looked up to me or looked at me for like certain things or for advice or whatever. And I felt like I was just like I took some people under my wing, but we uh we lost in the semi-final that year too, so that was kind of upsetting. I felt like this was definitely the year that we had the chance to win it all this year,
Mm-hmm.
and what a year to do it in too, in a COVID year if we had done it, you know.
Yeah. And what was it like then with the season and the schedule? There was a couple of games postponed with tests and positive cases?
Yeah, and they used to do like contact tracing too,
Mm-hmm.
so there was a lot of games postponed. Well, they're not a lot actually. They were just either like rescheduled. And in conference, there was no games postponed. Actually, there
Okay.
was one. Sorry, there was one round postponed because Senna tested positive. But in non-conference, we only had 4 non-conference games, so we only played like 14 games in a year, which isn't a lot. Like,
Okay. Usually, how many are you playing?
it could be anywhere between 26 and 28, I would say.
Wow. So
We
basically
play,
half the
yeah,
season.
basically half the season. Yeah,
Yeah. At least you've less of a scouting report then to go through if it's only half the games.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I'm interested to hear about your role as a leader. What kind of leadership style are you? You're real lead by example, or are you very vocal, or how did you approach that role?
I try to lead by example by the stuff that I do, and then like I try and be as open as I can. Like I hope that the younger fellas on the team would come to me if they have any questions or
Mm-hmm.
and I try to voice that as well. Like I try, and then again like that's linking back to like the likes of Jar and Gary, like and Roy. I
Mm-hmm.
learned from them how to be a leader the way they were a leader to me and Dara and the rest of the younger fellas that were in Neptune, you know. So I learned from them and I tried to take the stuff that they did with us and incorporate it into what I had at BSC.
Brilliant. What were those those things you brought from the lads at Neptune to BSC? I'm just interested to hear what you brought to the team in your role as a leader.
Uh, so then, like, as I said, I just tried to be open, and then I would try my best to do everything correct in practice or in training, and then
Mm-hmm.
incorporate that into the games and just the small details. So people would concentrate on the small details, you know,
Yeah.
rather than just like the big picture to where, oh, we win this game, like, oh, that's all that matters. But like, obviously, winning is important. But if you get all the details right, it's just going to be easier for everybody to win, and we're gonna move smoother and more fluently as well.
Mm-hmm. Do you think the details are something that younger players maybe overlook and they're too focused on the end goal rather than the present and getting the small things right?
I think so, and I'm not just talking about like individual like details of like a shot or something or your shot mechanics, but I'm talking like the details that we try to incorporate as a team. So if
Mm-hmm.
like someone is driving baseline, make sure that everybody's in their right spots so that you know where you're passing it to, and if you pass it there without even looking, that you know that somebody's going to be there, you know.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I was interested to see as well in the takeover, in the dressing room over the lockers, there was little signs with with different words. I couldn't make it out what it was. What were they sort of the team values that were up in the dressing room?
We did. We had some up there. I'll be honest, with you, all I can't name all of them.
No worries, no worries.
But the main one that we kind of we looked at was accountability, and that was the biggest one that we took. That was the main value that we like kind of based ourselves off of, and it was for like, and it could be used in like basketball sense, and then we tried to hold each other accountable in school too. So I mean, if someone was struggling in the classroom, like you would always have one of your teammates that could help you or hold you accountable to like or make sure that you do your stuff like so that you'll
Mm-hmm.
be able to play this year,
Yeah,
you know.
because there is a requirement, is there, in college in America? You have to have a certain grade to play.
Yeah, it's a 2.0, which is all C's.
Okay. And how hard is, if you could compare the college work, I know first year is different now in CIT to the States. What's that like over there?
It was different because in CIT I was taking eight modules.
Okay.
I had eight, and I'm in CIT from 9 to 4 every day. But whereas in BSc I was taking 4 classes, and I could have my schedule last year was 2 classes Monday, no class Tuesday, 2 classes Wednesday, and 1 class Thursday, and that's it.
Oh wow. Okay. And is a lot of that self-directed then, or is it just the stuff in
A
class?
lot, yeah. So you go to class, and the classes are longer; they're like an hour and a half each.
Okay.
But a lot of it is like teamwork. A lot of it's like projects. So we actually get homework every class.
Okay.
Those
Right.
kind of reminded me of secondary school, but and they grade you on the stuff that you bring to class then, and then you
Okay.
have to submit some stuff online and blah blah blah. But it's more stuff out of the classroom than in the classroom here. But whereas at home, it's a lot of hands on in the lectures and stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, that's interesting because yeah, I didn't really have a background of how it worked in the States. And then you graduated this year, was it?
Yeah, I graduated in May.
Yeah. And what's the plan now after? Are you looking at, maybe, I know you want to come home. We were speaking about that before we recorded. Is that something you want to continue maybe with a masters, or are you just kind of going to chill out for a while and enjoy being back home?
Uh, I'm looking at some masters here and there in a lot of a lot of the counties around the country, but I haven't put my finger on one yet.
Hmm.
But I come home in August, and obviously I'll spend a couple of weeks with my mum.
Yeah.
She'll be wanting that, but I'll see where it takes me from there. Then I have no idea. I honestly have no idea what I want to do afterwards.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, understandable. You're only 22, 23.
Yeah, I'll be
Yeah.
23 in August.
Yeah. You can celebrate with your mom now when you're home.
Yeah, I'll hang out over there for a while. I need to be in Cork for at least a month anyway before I even go anywhere.
Are you a bit of a home bird? I get the sense.
Yeah, I can be in stages. Like I feel like I've settled down a lot here now in Birmingham and Homewood where we are, and I feel like every time I go somewhere, I'm always like, all right, I'm ready to get back to Birmingham now. Like,
Yeah.
and if I'm at Cork, if I'm going anywhere in Ireland, it's gonna be Cork for the time being anyway.
Yeah. Outside of friends and family, obviously, is there anything you really miss from home? I think your brother said the chipper or something. So, is there anything
Yeah,
major you
he
missed?
he eats that shit. I know that, to be honest. I couldn't care. I couldn't care for that. My dad does cook good. My dad does cook pretty good. My mom does
Okay.
too. I'm not gonna take it away from her. So I mean, I miss a good home cooked meal every now and then.
Yeah.
And I love being home because I hate having to do my own washing. It's awful. I hate
You'd be
it.
like, "Hi, mom. Here's my washing. Good to see you."
Yeah, I hate it. It's just so tedious and annoying.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to grow up quick over there, and you had
Yeah,
an extra year of so with COVID, all the college students got an extra year of eligibility, but you would have had
yeah.
the year anyway from first year.
I'd
What was
have
the
2 years if I
You would have
wanted to. I'd
had?
have 2 years.
Yeah. What was the thinking of graduating this year and coming home? Did you ever think, particularly, I know you were named to all tournament team this year at the end,
Uh-huh.
was there ever, oh, well, I'll stay another year, or was it just, nah, I'm finished here?
Uh, I thought about it, and then it's just like school too, right? Like, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna be there taking these stupid classes that I already fulfilled all my requirements for my major,
Hmm.
and I hadn't been home in 2 years straight. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna call it a day. And I had finished with 4 or 3 of my friends that I became really close to too. So I felt
Hmm.
like I felt like it was about the right time.
Yeah, it was kind of time to move on. Everyone else
Yeah,
was kind of going, yeah, yeah, I
yeah.
know what you mean.
So
Looking to the future then, you don't really know what the plan is basketball wise. you're obviously hoping to play again.
Yeah, I'll definitely continue to play. It's
Mm,
just a matter of where.
yeah. And is that something you're looking at now, or is that something you'll just worry about down the line?
I worry about that down the line. I'm
Yeah.
just making sure that keep myself in shape this summer. It's a pity now that I couldn't get my passport on time because I would have loved to have came back and played at the Irish team
Mm,
this summer in August, but I missed that by a couple of weeks. So,
mm-hmm. Was that something
but
you were talking to Mark Keenan about?
yeah, I talked to Mark. I texted Mark a couple of times. We've been back and forth to each other,
Mm-hmm.
but he just texted me the other day telling me about the dates. So I won't be back on time for that, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, yeah. Were you involved in underage Irish teams growing up?
No, I don't have a cap for Ireland at all. I got cut. I got cut from my team underage, and I just said F that afterwards. I was like, I'm not going to go for any more.
Okay.
I
Was
was
it
concentrating on myself.
Yeah, was it fuel to the fire a bit?
Yeah, huge,
Mm-hmm.
massively.
Mm-hmm. And looking at that now, just for any of the younger listeners, didn't make Irish team, got to go to America, and you were in contact with the Irish head coach for this summer. It just shows that you don't always have to be you don't have to always make underage to be successful.
Oh yeah, there's some people. I mean, the cream always rises to the top.
Mm-hmm.
Like some people sprout up early and they peak when they're younger. But I mean, those kids that don't make an Irish team now or don't make any of the Irish teams underage. I mean, all I can say is just from experience, just keep your head down, concentrate on yourself, and find yourself a good group of people that'll always have your back, and you
Mm-hmm.
can always go to work with, and they'll always push you to the best of your ability too.
Do you feel that that's probably one of the biggest lessons you've learned from sport and in particular basketball?
Without a doubt,
Mm-hmm.
that's definitely the biggest lesson I've learned.
Do you have any particular goals to the future? I know it's hard because you don't know what your plan is, but is there anything in particular you'd like to achieve with basketball going forward?
Uh, I don't have any like particular goals. I mean, so I'd say, sure, I'd like to try on the green jersey for once in my life, or
Mm-hmm.
for one time at least.
Yeah.
Whether it be uh this summer coming or whenever they play again, I'm sure that I'll set that as my goal for my basketball goal.
Yeah. Number 11.
Whichever number they give me, I don't care.
Yeah. And overall, then, before I move on to sideline 7, what do you think is the biggest area of improvement you've seen really from your time in the States?
I've gotten way bigger. I came over here as very skinny
Mm-hmm.
and very like timid, but as soon as I got in the gym, people it people don't realize at home how much it plays a factor into your performance on the court.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that I wish I learned as like a 14, 15-year-old. But to all the 14, 15-year-olds that listen to this, you have to do it properly, and you have to have a coach that knows what they're talking about. Don't
Mm-hmm.
just go in there thinking that you know everything, because you don't.
Good advice. What was the biggest What was the biggest thing you saw in your performance from lifting and getting in the gym? Was there anything that really stood out to you? As like, geez, 2 years ago I wasn't able to do this, or
Yeah, I I definitely I moved up and down better. More it was like smoother, and
mm,
then I was able to take contact better. Like my upper body strength I was able to hold it.
mm,
I was getting to the rim and stuff. I was able to get by people, and even if they were faster than me, then I was able to like use my strength to where I could get the ball up at the rim and try and finish.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So we're gonna move on to the sideline 7. It's the same 7 questions at the end of every podcast. So question 1: what is your favorite quote?
Oh, jeez. Uh, my favorite quote. Uh, I like the one in Coach Carter. You know, when they're all in the gym,
Yeah. And he
the
stands up.
deepest fear one.
Yeah. That's
I
class.
can't quote it for you, but I know that one. I like that one. That's a good one.
Yeah. I'll put it in the description box below. That's a really powerful one. That's probably one of the best scenes in the whole movie.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is.
Question 2, best sporting event you've been to?
Uh, the Boston Celtics game that I went to in like 2010.
Okay.
Myself, my family, and Dara went. They're playing the Wizards, and we were lucky enough to get on the court afterwards because we had talked to some people.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
That's class. Did you meet any of
yeah,
the players or anything?
yeah. We met Kendrick Perkins. My dad had played against his dad, so we got to meet him and make that connection, which was very cool. And we met
Wow.
John Wall as well.
Oh cool. That's deadly. That's really
Yeah.
cool. Yeah. Can see why that stands out. Is there anything in particular as a player that really stood out to you?
Uh, like my biggest sporting event.
Mm.
Oh, the weekend we won the 3 cups without a doubt.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was the biggest weekend of that Neptune have had in a long, long time,
Mm.
and it was unbelievable.
Mm. Question 3, biggest setback or challenge so far in your career?
Uh, I'd have to go with the time that I got cut from that Irish team when I was a kid. I mean, it just sticks to me every time. It kind of makes me mad every time I think about it.
Mm.
But it drove me to where I am today, which is good.
What age group was that you were cut at? Out of interest.
I think it was like the under 15 on development squad or something like that.
Okay. And where do you think that maturity came from? Where you just said, right, I'm just going to concentrate on myself and improve here, and yeah, ended up working out. You know, you got to go to the States and all this.
Yeah.
Where do you think that maturity came from?
Uh, my mom and dad helped me a lot with that because obviously my dad said he went through the same thing when he was a kid, and I mean he seemed to work it out pretty well for himself too. But they were big in that, and Dara was a big help too. So I mean, it was obviously, as I said earlier, it was a group of people that I put myself around and that I had it on my back that kind of got me through that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Kind of on the flip side, then a bit more positive. Your biggest achievement on or off the court?
Uh, my biggest achievement. So I'll say that the Neptune, the one I've mentioned it multiple times on this podcast already, but that three when we went under 18, under 20 in the National League, that was something else. And then one of the achievements that I kind of pride myself on is like just taking off and coming here without even visiting, and then sticking to it and ending up loving it after 3 years. You know.
Yeah, well, definitely something to be proud of. Dream dinner guest and why?
Jennifer Aniston.
I skipped one by accident. Advice to your 18-year-old self. I know we kind of spoke about a bit of advice before.
To my 18-year-old self, just stick to it. I mean, just stick at it. I mean, you're gonna, yeah, just stick to it. I mean, just keep doing the right things, keep your head down, and things will work out for the better.
Was there any particular low point looking back that you were ready to not pack it in, but you were kind of like, you know, this might not happen for me. I might not get to go to America. I might not get to represent Ireland. Is there any kind of particular moment that stands out for you, or are you just always just that sort of tunnel vision, really?
I wouldn't really call it a low point, but I was kind of like, when I went to CIT after my leaving cert, I was like, all right, I mean, shit happens. Like, I guess I'm not going to be going to America. I mean, I'll be fine. I'll work out here. I'll play with Neptune and I'll go to CIT. But I wouldn't call that a low point. I was just kind of like being realistic with myself until that next year I went to CIT and I met Ian, as I said earlier on, and things seemed to work itself out then.
Final question: if your life was a book, what chapter would this be called?
Oof. Going home
And getting getting your mum to do your washing, and then getting a nice home cooked dinner. But anyway, Conor, look, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for coming on. Just want to wish you the best of luck with everything on the court, off the court, and yeah, just keep safe over in America, and hopefully you get back soon.
I will. Thanks, Orla. Thanks for having me.
A massive thank you to Conor for joining me today. I thoroughly enjoyed our chat and I just want to wish him the very best of luck moving forward. If you enjoyed the episode, be sure to let me know over on Instagram at The Sideline Live. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts and you did enjoy the episode, be sure to leave a rating and a review. If you're interested in starting up your own podcast, be sure to get in touch with the Primal Productions team over on Instagram at Primal Pro.